Open mic time with the Ticket's George Dunham, part of the Musers Morning Team, a long-time, recently retired voice of North Texas basketball, football as well. We'll talk about DeMarco Murray, where the Cowboys go from here in a moment, George. But first, the tournament, and SMU is in for the first time since '93. What do you make of what Larry Brown's been able to do in such a short period of time on the Hilltop?
Well, I think it shows what happens if you invest in a program. They invested in their facilities, they invested in a coach, paid him a lot of money, and they've seen amazing dividends. The first time that they've done something like this in more than 20 years. John Shoemate was the last one to win a conference championship at SMU in '93, and I think they're well poised to make a pretty deep run in this tournament, because they always say, well, you got to have a backcourt, you got to have a coach. They've got that, but they can rebound. They play great defense. That was evident today, and what they did to Connecticut in the first half. And I think they're poised to make a pretty good run.
6th seed in the South. They play in Louisville Thursday against UCLA, and of course, plenty of irony there, given the fact that Larry Brown coached the Bruins way back when. As you said, you had Moore outside, you had Kennedy inside. Larry Brown, a nugget that I knew you would love, his last tournament appearance, 1988. So all of that time in between appearances for Larry Brown. So it'll be a big national story just because he's back in the tournament.
Well, it worked out pretty well for him in 1988.
Sure did,
that Kansas team that won it all. And, I looked at their road. It's doable for a while. I think maybe down the road it's Gonzaga that's in there as a 2 seed, and I think they can really do some damage.
All right, let's go to the Big 12 now. Rick Barnes, Texas Longhorns on the bubble. They do get in with an 11 seed in the Midwest. They'll play Butler in Pittsburgh on Thursday. Texas just 3-12 against top 50 teams. So a lot of people thought they might even have to play in one of the play-in games, but for them to get in surprised some. What do you think?
A little surprising, and I think once they lost and let that game slip away against Iowa State, a lot of people thought they were maybe the last 4 out or maybe the last 4 in, but they're in. I think the Big 12, very deep. You can say they're the best conference in college basketball this year. I just don't know how many teams from the Big 12, though, will make a deep run. Kansas, I think, is certainly capable. Maybe Iowa State. I don't know how far Texas can go, and I still don't know the future of Rick Barnes. What if they're a one and done?
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you. This is a case where I think some Texas fans, and I've always liked Rick Barnes. I think he's done an amazing job there, but some Texas fans probably were hoping that they wouldn't get in, because that would, mean that Rick Barnes would definitely be out. This might have bought him another year. Who knows?
It may have, but if they take an exit in the first round, then maybe you had that talk. Well, he's had his time, and maybe it's run its course in Austin, and he, I guess, could still be. It is Texas. It seems like they have a pretty high standard down there.
As you started to talk about the Big 12, 7 of the 10 teams in the conference get in. The Longhorns, along with Kansas, Iowa State, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Baylor. A lot of interesting storylines, including this Baylor team, which is a 3 seed, tremendously athletic, talented team.
I looked at their road too. I think that I probably shouldn't have left them out as a Big 12 team that could make a run. I think they could do some damage in this tournament, and they have the last couple of years. And I would say those 3 teams, Iowa State, Kansas, Baylor, with the best chance to do something significant in the tournament.
Oklahoma is a 3 seed in the East, plays Albany, then the winner of Providence or the Boise State-Dayton game, so maybe a decent path for Lon Kruger there as well. Kansas, a Big 12 team that tends to be hot and cold one way or the other in the postseason. They're always there. You got Perry Ellis back now, and who knows where the Jayhawks may go.
Yeah, I don't think it's Bill Self's best team, but I do think that he is one of those tournament coaches. I think he's tremendous, and that's why Kansas, along with that seeding, I think gives them a chance to do something good.
Unbeaten Kentucky, the overall #1 seed in the NCAA tournament. The Wildcats try to become the first Division I team since the 70s. Great Indiana team to go through the whole thing unbeaten. It's like we used to talk about with Tiger Woods in a golf tournament. You got Tiger or the field. You got Calipari or the field in this tournament.
I'll give you the field. How about that? And I'll take Kentucky. That's the thing, though. If you're talking about them going, they got 6 to go. So if they do that, that would be 40-0. That would be one of the most incredible accomplishments in our lifetime, and they've been stretched a couple of times. LSU, a few weeks ago, former North Texas coach Johnny Jones had a chance to get him in Baton Rouge, had a 6-point lead with 2 minutes left. If that's the tournament and you are now 37-0, maybe the pressure gets to these kids, but it's almost like they just do whatever they need to do in the final 5 minutes to win a game. And there you see an example, their passing game. You just think of them as, okay, well, they just roll the ball out and they go. I think Calipari's an underrated coach, and I think the way they play together is underrated. That is a tremendous team.
And that's really special for a team that basically, has, 10 kids on it who could play anywhere they wanted and play as many minutes as they wanted. For them to all accept their roles makes them pretty special.
They're very deep, and someone could get them, though. I think they're gettable. And would you want to go into the tournament unbeaten? I almost wonder if Calipari was hoping maybe they would have a slip-up on the road in the SEC.
And it's funny because I think if I absolutely had to predict, I don't think they get through it. Just because there's a reason it has taken this long for it to happen. And I just don't think this is the year it happens either. But I think for a change, instead of the NCAA tournament having to wait until it begins for the storylines to develop, there's a really good one heading in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and so many people say, well, the tournament's fallen. It's hard to – and that's a really great example of it. Kentucky switches out players by the year, but it's still a great event. This is still a great sports spectacular.
All right, let's go to Cowboys. Sports spectacular. I like that. Let's go to Cowboys now. And DeMarco Murray was booed at last night's UFC fight when he was shown on the big screen attending the event. I don't necessarily disagree with it, but, man, this could blow up in their face big time.
Boy, it really could. They finally go 12-4. They have something that looks like the triplets of the 90s with what Romo, Murray, and Dez did together. And, look, I don't think he should be made to be the villain, DeMarco Murray. I don't think the Cowboys really necessarily did the wrong thing, but this is just not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to lose the leading rusher in the league. You're just not supposed to do that, and it hasn't happened, I think, since the 40s. So it could blow up in their face, but my partner Craig Miller brought up a good point this week. What if Sam Bradford's bad? Then what's DeMarco Murray going to do? It may not be as efficient in Philadelphia.
Gee, what if Sam Bradford can't stay healthy? No,
what if that happens?
Now it's Darren McFadden in some role with the Cowboys. 7 years in Oakland, 4,200 yards. Speaking of not being able to stay healthy, that was part of McFadden's problem. I mean, where do they go in the backfield now? I don't know if he's going to be the guy, if they're going to still draft a guy. Certainly if Gordon's there or Gurley, they'd have to think long and hard about that.
Always be careful with someone named Gordon. I don't know if that's really a good idea. And I don't know if Darren McFadden's a bad idea, but I just wouldn't expect too much. Now, he's averaged 3 yards a carry the last 2 years. Is that because he's been on a bad team? Would he flourish behind the Cowboys' offensive line? I would expect another veteran or maybe a draft pick, third round on down, to join the likes of who they have on the roster. And, of course, I always want Lance Dunbar to get a chance.
Yeah, you always are going for the North Texas guy. What does this decision say about Stephen Jones' influence? The power seems to have shifted a bit in the Cowboys front office.
Oh, I think it has, and I think it goes back to last spring when apparently he won the arm wrestling contest over what to do between Johnny Manziel and an offensive lineman. And I think Stephen does have a lot more power than he used to, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
All right, a few seconds left here. Let's talk about Jub Jam, the big music event coming up, benefiting the Senior Source next month at the Kessler. George Dunham, the host. Go. What do you got?
April 23rd, the Kessler Theater. You can get your tickets at theticket.com or at prekindle.com. It's going to be a great night. We got Michael Padgett. We've got Steve Helms, Bobby Duncan, Prophets and Outlaws, the Gordon Keith Band, the Bird Dogs, and a couple of special guests. I hate that you're going to miss it this year.
Yeah, I've been privileged to share the stage with you and some great musicians, of course, counting myself in that number here over the last few years, but I'm going to be out of town that night. Again, April 23rd, prekindle.com or theticket.com.
Or theticket.com.
As well for tickets. Jub Jam. It's a great benefit event at a beautiful venue, the Kessler. George Dunham, mornings with the Musers on the Ticket. Always great having you in.
Thank you, Mike. Stay classy, Dallas.